Please subscribe my channel. And a great multitude followed him, because they saw his miracles which he did on them that were diseased. When Jesus then lifted up his eyes, and saw a great company come to him, he said to Philip, From where shall we buy bread, that these may eat? Philip answered him, 200 penny worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. There is a lad here, which has 5 barley loaves, and 2 small fishes, but what are they among so many? And Jesus said, Make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place. So the men sat down, in number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples. When they were filled, he said to his disciples, Gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Therefore they gathered them together, and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above to them that had eaten. Then those men, when they had seen the miracle that Jesus did, said, This is of a truth that prophet that should come into the world. And when even was now come, his disciples went down to the sea, and entered into a ship, and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them, and the sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. So when they had rowed about 25 or 30 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea, and drawing near to the ship, and they were afraid. But he said to them, It is I, be not afraid. Then they willingly received him into the ship, and immediately the ship was at the land where they went. And he entered into a ship, and passed over, and came into his own city. And, behold, they brought to him a man sick of the palsy, lying on a bed, and Jesus, seeing their faith, said to the sick of the palsy, Son, be of good cheer, your sins be forgiven you. And, behold, certain of the scribes said within themselves, This man blasphemes. And Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, Why think you evil in your hearts? For whether is easier, to say, Your sins be forgiven you, or to say, Arise, and walk? But that you may know that the Son of Man has power on earth to forgive sins, then said he to the sick of the palsy, Arise, take up your bed, and go to your house. Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus, of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not to death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. Now Jesus loved Martha, and her sister, and Lazarus. When he had heard therefore that he was sick, he stayed 2 days still in the same place where he was. Then said Jesus to them plainly, Lazarus is dead. Then said Martha to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother had not died. But I know, that even now, whatever you will ask of God, God will give it you. Jesus said to her, Your brother shall rise again. And said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Jesus therefore again groaning in himself comes to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay on it. Jesus said, Take you away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, said to him, Lord, by this time he stinks, for he has been dead 4 days. Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes, and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave-clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus said to them, Loose him, and let him go. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary, and had seen the things which Jesus did, believed on him. And it came to pass, when he was in a certain city, behold a man full of leprosy, who seeing Jesus fell on his face, and sought him, saying, Lord, if you will, you can make me clean. And he put forth his hand, and touched him, saying, I will, be you clean. And immediately the leprosy departed from him.